Thank you very much. Honored to be the last speaker of the panel. I really am. Two takeaways for you today. One, we've got a plan from the private sector to electrify the world. This is a bold statement here, but it comes from the experience that we had with the Galapagos Wind Project. And we can do this. We got a plan. The second is you can have all the hardware in the world you want, but if no one wants to pay for it, you're not going to get it in place. And those are the two fundamental things that I'd like to talk to you about today. But as I mentioned last night, and as we've been so honored to be recognized for best practice by the World Energy Forum, you ought to take a look at the Galapagos projects for the lessons that we learned from 2001 when Dick Hosier and Andy Yeager called us and said, can you do the first wind project in Ecuador? And I had a lot of bettors that were saying there's no way that American Electric Power is going to do this with a team. There's no way that Paul's going to keep his job because he's going to fail. This is a hard project. And a global electrification plan is going to be hard work. But there is a path forward. So we come prepared as the private sector to take this kind of planning process forward in conjunction with the UN agencies, with the governments around the world, in order to provide the benefits of electricity. And so I'd like you to take my email address down, and if you feel that you want to join the effort after you take a look at the plan to help execute it, we'd be happy to have you join. Copenhagen is a milestone. Maybe there won't be a cap on global emissions, but if there is an accommodation for the plan that I'm about to describe to you, we can move the ball forward and get on a glide path starting today in order to make sure that global warming doesn't represent a threat to our world. The private sector is pretty good, and power companies are especially good next to the military for planning. And we put a plan together, we identify who's got to do what, we got a timeline, we'll get results. We only had 405 steps to make the Galapagos a success. Big spreadsheet. We just went on, right on down. You had your critical path items. We had adjustments to make in real time, but we got it done. And so we've got some ideas on how we can get this done. And we welcome anyone to join us. First, a little bit about AEP. We're the largest power company in the United States, depending upon what day of the week it is. We burn more coal than anybody. We have the most CO2 emissions than anybody. We also have the largest extra high voltage transmission line in the world. We move a lot of electricity around 11 states. But we're a member of a lot of organizations. We're a member of the E8, which is a group of power companies that do pro bono work, small projects, hand in hand with local utilities and national governments around the world. Member of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development in a leadership role. World Energy Council. We're a member of Barry's organization. We want to help. We have no business interests outside the United States. But we think it's the right thing to do to try to provide new technologies, ideas like this plan, work together, and see if we can make a real difference. It used to be that technology was not the solution. There were other things that we ought to be doing in order to advance the ball on providing electricity to those that didn't have it or those that don't have enough of it. But I think today the reality is that leaders now have an expectation that hardware, whether it be generating, transmission, energy efficiency is the solution. And so the challenge is, to have technology live up to all these expectations. It's a tall order, but it can be done. This is what we did in the Galapagos. You all asked us to work down there, and we got it done. It's being replicated right now on another island. And so going forward, this is the reality that we expect a plan to have, and the benefits that will be provided if we can get technology on the ground faster. You only have 4 basic principles to get this done. You got to have an energy development plan. I'm going to give you the global picture. It needs to be done for each country. Every country has different renewable resource. Every country has different political aspirations. Every country has different energy security issues. Those all have to be addressed inside a country, we believe. Not a problem, though, to be working with them, one-on-one. We got to have a timeline. It's no good to have a plan unless you're focused on getting something done on a reasonable time frame. Scientists tell us that, we really got to solve this global warming issue yesterday. Okay, so we're a little late, but we ought to be starting early because the lag time to get to where the hardware actually is doing something is a while. Can be speeded up, but needs to be done with a start today. There are public policies that countries can enact to move this along inside their countries and regionally. We've talked about that for the last 2 days, and there are books on this stuff. But to actually require countries working with the private sector and the NGO community to get on a plan and move it forward is the key, I think. The money has to come. We have to figure out how to provide electricity to those that absolutely will never afford it. But we do that anyway in many developed countries. There's subsidies all over the place. We need to remember that not only the residential customer, but the commercial user, the industrial user, is a user of electricity that can play a very important role, not only in the aspect of using that electricity, but providing tax revenues to countries, jobs to countries, for those social programs that are so important. So as AEP, we don't forget about the manufacturers in this country that provide so many important services to their states. This absolutely cannot be done unless we have private-public partnerships. We learn that time and time again. Little things in the Galapagos. I had to call up the energy minister one day and say, my turbine blades are stuck in Spain, and I'm off schedule here, and you got me on a deadline to have those turbines spinning in October. Can you help me? He called up his friend in Spain and got it done. It's going to be a portfolio approach, mainly because there's so many types of diversified resources in countries. Not necessarily all countries have to have all things. We see in Africa, for instance, these loops. Regional approaches might very well work. But each country has to have a start somewhere, some way. This is the technology plan that I'd like to share with you. Take that email down. World Business Council for Sustainable Development put this out for Bali. It was a thoughtful piece generated by a number of power companies. It's been vetted in China, Japan, South Africa, the United States for stakeholders. It's a good starting point. Is it the perfect place? No. But it's a plan, and we're behind it. And so take a look at it. I mean, it basically covers the whole waterfront for everybody.